Before Amari became the subject of an urgent search, she was the smiling child who loved cooking with her grandmother, dressing up, and caring for her younger siblings. That matters, because the story later told about her behavior would look nothing like the child her family remembered. Her full name was Nicole Amari Hall, but she preferred Amari. Her grandmother described her as vibrant, affectionate, and almost always smiling. In the kitchen, Amari had a place beside her grandmother. They cooked together. They spent time together. And when Amari was with her younger brother, Jakari, and her 6-year-old sister, Zaire, she was loving and attentive. She adored those two children. That is the first thing to hold on to here. Not the hotel room. Not the police search. Not the missing person alert. Amari was 8 years old. She was a real child with favorite activities, familiar routines, and people who knew the difference between who she was and what adults later claimed about her. She loved dress up. She loved learning. She loved being around her family. Her grandmother remembered her as kind, bright, and well-mannered. Not perfect. Not emotionless. A child. But nothing like the severe behavioral problem that would later be used to explain where she might have gone. Amari was autistic and needed daily medication. Her family also described her as highly aware and observant. She noticed things. She understood more than people might assume. And, according to the account given later, she had never simply gone out alone before. That detail would become important. At the time, Amari lived with her mother, Brittany Hall, her younger brother and sister, and Brittany's girlfriend, Celeste Owens. Brittany was 27. Celeste was 29. The two women had been together for several years, and the family had recently moved into an extended stay hotel in the Peachtree Corners area of Gwinnett County, Georgia. The place was called Hometown Studios. They had been living there for roughly 3 months. The children were being homeschooled. Their daily life was happening inside one hotel room, with the same walls, the same corridors, and very little contact with the world outside. That isolation did not look dramatic from a distance. No one was watching the family every hour. No one was standing outside the door, keeping a record of who came and went. Neighbors later said they rarely saw the children outside the room, and Amari's grandmother had lost regular contact with them. At one point, she had cared for the children while they attended school. She had wanted to keep helping. She had repeatedly asked Brittany whether she could take the children and look after them again. Brittany said no. Then the children left, and contact became harder. The grandmother called to speak with them, but often could not reach them. She did not know where they were living. She did not know what their days looked like. She did not know how cut off the family had become. What she did know was the Amari she had raised around her. A bright girl. A gentle girl. A child who liked school and family activities. A child who could have behavioral struggles, like many children do, but who was not the person described in the first explanation surrounding her disappearance. That difference would matter later. For now, the family was still inside that hotel room. The last apparently ordinary weekend was passing. There was no public alarm yet. No helicopters, no K-9 teams moving through the area, no reporters outside the building. Just a family living in a confined space, with Amari's world becoming smaller and smaller. Think about that for a second. The people closest to her knew her as observant and affectionate. The people who might have helped her were far away, and some of them no longer knew where she lived. Neighbors saw little. The children were being homeschooled. Whatever was happening inside that room stayed inside that room. Then came Sunday, November 21st, 2021. Brittany would later say that she had last seen Amari sometime between midnight and 1 in the morning. The child was supposedly in the hotel room. The door had been locked with the deadbolt, and then Brittany went to sleep. At least, that was the beginning of the account. By morning, Amari was gone. Her glasses were gone with her. So were the rainbow shoes that lit up when she walked. She needed medication. She had never been out alone before. And according to the adults around her, there was no nearby relative or friend she would naturally have gone to. The circumstances were frightening from the very start. But before anyone could decide what had happened, investigators had to understand who Amari was. She was not an abstract missing child in a police bulletin. She was not a label. And she was not accurately represented by the excuses later attached to her name. She was a real, closely loved girl whose world had become increasingly closed off from anyone who might have noticed what was happening. Then, at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning, Brittany called 911 with a story built around one detail. The hotel door was open. A deadbolt was supposed to have been secured overnight. By morning, The door was cracked open, Amari was gone, and Brittany claimed she had already searched the entire property twice. It was Sunday, November 21st, 2021. Brittany Hall told 911 that she had last seen her daughter sometime between midnight and 1 in the morning. Amari was inside the hotel room. She said the door had been secured overnight. Everyone went to sleep. Then Brittany woke up. The door was no longer fully closed. Amari was nowhere inside. Brittany said she went outside and searched the building. She checked the parking area. She looked around the property. Then she searched it again. Only after that did she call police at approximately 9 in the morning. The first public explanation was short, almost painfully simple, and that was part of what made it sound so urgent. Brittany later described the moment on camera.
I woke up yesterday morning and my daughter wasn't here. The door's cracked. I went outside. I went to go around the whole place. I went twice. I did not see her. I called 911.
The words were plain. She woke up, her daughter was missing, the door was cracked, and she had looked everywhere she could think to look. No complicated theory. No obvious suspect. Just a mother trying to explain how an 8-year-old had disappeared from a locked hotel room. But even in that first account, there were details that made the situation more serious. Amari was autistic and needed daily medication. Brittany said her daughter had never gone out alone before. She also said Amari had no nearby relatives or friends she would naturally visit. The family had only recently moved to the area, and there was no obvious place where the child could have gone. Then came a qualification. When dispatchers asked whether Amari had ever run away, Brittany said no. But she added that the child had been having behavioral issues recently, so it was not completely impossible. That distinction mattered. Brittany was describing a child who had never left alone, had never run away, and would not have had anyone nearby to seek out. Yet she was also leaving room for the possibility that Amari had walked out. There was one more detail. Brittany said that if Amari had left the room voluntarily, she probably would not have pulled the door shut behind her. The latch made a noise. That noise could wake everyone, so the cracked door became the center of the story. Not a forced entry, not a broken lock. A door left partly open with no child inside. Celeste Owens gave investigators a different piece of the overnight timeline. She said she had been with her sister and grandmother. According to Celeste, she returned around 4 or 5 in the morning, went straight to sleep, and had no idea anything was wrong until Brittany woke her. That was Celeste's version. She had not been present for the disappearance, had not seen Amari leave, and had learned about it only when Brittany began yelling that the child was missing. At first, the search treated the story as a frightening but possible disappearance. Within hours, Amari's description was everywhere. She was 8 years old, approximately 4 feet 10 inches tall, and weighed about 80 pounds according to the initial alert. She was African American. She wore glasses, a blue Tweety Bird jacket, blue and white pajamas, and rainbow shoes that lit up when she walked. Those shoes should have been easy to notice. The hotel was searched room by room. Officers checked the family's room, then went through the rest of the building. They searched nearby businesses, wooded areas, parking lots, and the surrounding streets. K-9 teams arrived. A helicopter widened the search beyond the immediate property. Businesses turned over surveillance footage. Local media began broadcasting the alert. The private emergency had become a public one, and the public was being asked to imagine a child moving through the area alone in the dark, without medication, without a familiar adult, and without any history of doing anything like this before.
Breaking, the mother of a missing child, arrested and charged. Brittany Nicole Hall is in the Gwinnett County Jail right now on multiple cruelty to children charges.
Investigators say they've gone room to room, enlisted the help of canines and a helicopter in their search. Still no Amari. They tell me they've combed through the surveillance video from the hotel and add they've found something concerning, but are unwilling to release those details at this time in order to protect the investigation. As police work to uncover the truth, neighbors here at the Hometown Studio Hotel remain baffled at how this young girl seemed to vanish in plain sight.
Nobody heard anything. Nobody heard anything, any commotion or anything.
The report captured the scale of the response. Dogs working the area, helicopters searching farther out, officers combing the woods, and investigators asking businesses for surveillance. It also captured the strange impression hanging over the hotel. An 8-year-old appeared to have vanished in plain sight. By roughly 4:30 that afternoon, Gwinnett County Police said they had no significant leads. Officers were still patrolling the area and searching possible routes. But publicly, they did not believe there were clear signs of foul play. That did not mean the situation was safe. It meant investigators had not yet found evidence pointing clearly to an abduction or an attack. The temperature was dropping. The night ahead was expected to be cold, eventually falling below freezing. Every hour mattered more because Amari needed medication and had no experience surviving outside alone. Police Sergeant Jennifer Richter said the department was doing everything it could to develop leads. Investigators were prepared to return to people they had already interviewed and ask more questions. The longer Amari remained missing, the more critical the case became. But the physical search was producing nothing. No clear sighting, no confirmed path away from the hotel, no trace from the woods, no report of an 8-year-old in glowing rainbow shoes moving through the neighborhood. And that absence began to change the question. At first, police were asking, where did Amari go? Soon, they would be asking something more difficult. Had she gone anywhere at all? The first real break did not come from the woods, a witness, or a search dog. It came when detectives asked Brittany and Celeste to account for every hour, and discovered that the hours would not stay in the same order. Celeste could describe a kidnapping theory. What she could not consistently explain was when she left the hotel, when she returned, or whether she had even checked that the children were in bed. Detectives did not begin by accusing her. They explained that reconstructing the previous 72 hours was routine in a missing child case. Small details mattered. A trip to a store. A phone call. Who was awake? Who saw Amari? And when? The children called Celeste Dad. She was not a visitor passing through the room. She was one of the adults responsible for them, with regular access to Amari and direct knowledge of the household. But as investigators pressed for a timeline, Celeste became defensive.
Okay, so I just want to talk to you away from her. Separate me.
Yes. All I'm saying is, just to clear things, I am discombobulated. I cannot give you exact times. If you feel like I went at the BP that time, run the camera back to the BP where you saw me with this hat. You don't approach people like that to try to get something out of someone because you think so. Then why would a little girl this? Why would a little girl? I'm telling you everything that's going on. And then when we come for help, you don't really get help. That's why a lot of people do things and just don't call the cops and handle it their own way because it can flip, just like what it did today, like my dad always told me. Anything could flip with cops. So it just pisses me off because I've been out all day. I've been answering you respectfully all morning. Respectfully all morning. Then I get here and I'm in the room that I've never been in before that I've seen on First 48 and being chastised with questions trying to make me, I think you did it. As soon as he said that, it broke me to the core. Because if I did it, I damn sure wouldn't be in that hotel. I would be going on the run. Because like I might as well take matters in my own hands or hire a private investigator. Like I wanted to do today. I said, babe, if they can't actively find today, when we get up on money, we're going to hire a private investigator to also help. Information I gave you, the information she gave you, when she woke up, she was not there. That's it. You can flip the bed. You guys check the bed 10 times. Go flip it again. We give you permission to go in there. Mm-hmm. If you guys asked us, but you guys kept coming in, but you know you gotta have warrant to come in anyway, but we open the door and let you come in. So it's like, just have some respect for it. It's like, come on, we wouldn't be calling you for help if I would have just got away with it.
Her response focused on how the questioning made her feel. She compared it to her experience after her mother was murdered and objected to detectives saying they believed she knew more. But the questions remained simple. Where had she been, and when? Celeste initially said she had gone to help her sister and had spent time with her sister and grandmother. She placed her return at around 4 or 5, but even that answer shifted between morning and afternoon. Detectives slowed everything down and tried again.
So what was the first time Saturday that you left?
The first time Saturday, I can't recall really the time.
Morning, afternoon, evening? The
first time I left, I went to the store, it was morning. Went to the store that day and then came back and then left again and then helped my sister out and then came back that morning before she went.
Now when you left again to help your sister out, what time was that?
Left again before. I couldn't really even tell you.
After lunch, before dinner, nighttime, day, I mean, the sun goes down at 5 o'clock.
Before that, it had to be nighttime. Daylight wasn't there.
So when you went to go help your sister, it was already nighttime?
Going on night.
Going on night, so after 5 o'clock, mm-hmm. Okay.
This was not confusion over a few minutes. Celeste moved between morning, daylight, evening, and nighttime. She could not reliably say when she first left, when she returned, or when she left again. At one point, the answer became 2 o'clock. Then detectives had to ask the obvious follow-up, 2 in the morning or 2 in the afternoon.
And then when you get back?
That's Saturday morning. I mean, you talking about Friday?
No, we're still on Saturday.
Still on Saturday.
So we left.
So Saturday morning I came back. Sorry, I'm just.
Okay, so let's just. Sorry, just breathe. Okay, so you hang out with Brittany all morning on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
You go to the store, you come back, and then you leave again when it's kind of dark to go help your sister, and then you come back. When you get back.
Often. Sometimes I don't wake up. Sometimes I just.
Well, I'm not talking about sometimes. I'm talking about just yesterday.
Just Saturday.
Just yesterday.
Came back around. Let me give you the specific time. I think I want to say, because I came back, it was evening, it was dark. I want to say 2 o'clock, because I was in, then came back.
Like 2 a.m.
Came back, yeah, 2
okay.
p.m.
2 p.m.
Mm-hmm. Because Saturday. Sorry.
Okay, so let's start over. We're getting all.
The timeline was not merely incomplete. It changed while she was giving it. The same thing happened when detectives asked about Amari. Celeste first indicated that she had seen her before leaving. Then she said that when she returned, she did not check the children's beds. She had gone inside and gone to sleep, simply assuming they were there. Her proposed explanation created another contradiction. Celeste thought Amari might have run away and then been snatched by someone outside. Yet she also said Amari normally asked both adults for permission before going outdoors, not just one of them. The behavior Celeste described did not fit the theory she was offering. Investigators asked directly whether she knew where Amari was. Celeste said no. Had she taken her? No. Did she know about any injury? No. Did she believe Amari was dead? Again, no. Then detectives began testing a different possibility.
Parking lot,
Check the camera, I guarantee.
Okay, so that was one thing I wanted to touch on too. So we've checked several cameras. There's a camera for the hotel. There's the car wash across the street. There's a hibachi. There's another camera. We've checked all those cameras. We have people checking those cameras right now. They never saw her walking around that hotel.
Really? This morning?
Mm-hmm. Now, did you see her go walking around?
I only saw her go down the steps and go down the side, and by that time she's already on the phone with 911.
Now, another thing I do have to ask is on the side that is something else might have happened. Is there any reason something else might happen? Like maybe more got hurt and there was an accident and we're just afraid to talk about it, something like that?
Yes, sometimes she is like that. You'll ask her what's wrong.
I mean, I'm talking like last night. Did something happen to her to where she got hurt real bad, and we're coming up with this story to try to get away from that because we're worried that like when the police find out, they're going to think something else happened and we're going to get in trouble, like something like that.
No.
They told Celeste that cameras at the hotel and surrounding businesses did not show Brittany carrying out the extensive search she had described. Celeste said she had seen Brittany go downstairs while already on the phone, but that was not the same as searching the property twice before calling 911. So detectives asked whether an accident had happened, whether Amari had been badly hurt and the adults had created a disappearance story because they were afraid of what police would think. Celeste denied it, and as the interview continued, she argued that asking police for help had somehow been turned against her.
Okay, so I just want to talk to you away from her, separate me.
Yes. All I'm saying is, just to clear things, I am discombobulated. I cannot give you exact times. If you feel like I went at the BP that time, run the camera back to the BP where you saw me with this hat. You don't approach people like that to try to get something out of someone because you think so. Then why would a little girl this? Why would a little girl? I'm telling you everything that's going on. And then when we come for help, you don't really get help. That's why a lot of people do things and just don't call the cops and handle it their own way because it can flip, just like what it did today, like my dad always told me. Anything can flip with cops. So it just pisses me off because I've been out all day. I've been answering you respectfully all morning. Respectfully all morning. Then I get here and I'm in the room that I've never been in before that I've seen on First 48 and being chastised with questions trying to make me, I think you did it. As soon as he said that, it broke me to the core. Because if I did it, I damn sure wouldn't be in that hotel. I would be going on the run. Because like I might as well take matters in my own hands or hire a private investigator. Like I wanted to do today. I said, babe, if they can't actively find today, when we get up on money, we're going to hire a private investigator to also help. The information I gave you, the information she gave you, when she woke up, she was not there. That's it. You can flip the bed. You guys check the bed 10 times. Go flip it again. We give you permission to go in there. Mm-hmm. If you guys asked us, but you guys kept coming in, but you know you gotta have more to come in anyway, but we open the door and let you come in. So it's like, just have some respect for it. It's like, come on, we wouldn't be calling you for help if I would have just got away with it.
Her defense was that a guilty person would not remain at the hotel. If she had done something to Amari, Celeste said, she would have fled. But staying in place did not explain the missing hours. It did not explain why her account moved from one time of day to another. and it did not turn an invented alibi into a real one, because detectives checked. Celeste's supposed visit with her sister and grandmother had not happened. The relatives had not seen her that night. Some had not seen her in months. This was not a disputed memory or a minor error about the clock. It was an easily disproved claim about where she had been during the critical period. Investigators returned to her departure time.
So what was the first time Saturday that you left?
The first time I can't recall really the time.
Before morning, afternoon, evening?
The first time I left, I went to the store. It was morning. Went to the store that day and then came back and then left again and then helped my sister out and then came back that morning before she went.
Now, when you left again to help your sister out, what time was that?
Left again before. I couldn't really even tell you.
Afterwards, before dinner, nighttime, day. I mean, the sun goes down at 5 o'clock.
Before that, it had to be nighttime. Daylight wasn't there.
So when you went to go help your sister, it was already nighttime.
Going on night.
Going on night. So after 5 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Again, Celeste drifted between morning and night. She seemed unable to anchor the trip to daylight, darkness, or even the correct part of the day. Then the return time shifted too.
And then when you get back?
That's Saturday morning. I mean, you talking about Friday?
No, we're still on Saturday.
Still on Saturday.
So we left.
So Saturday morning I came back. Sorry, I'm just...
Okay, so let's just... Sorry, just breathe. Okay, so you hang out with Brittany all morning on Sunday. Mm-hmm. You go to the store, you come back, and then you leave again when it's kind of dark to go help your sister, and then you come back. When you get back...
Often. Sometimes I don't wake up, sometimes I just...
Well, I'm not talking about sometimes, I'm talking about just yesterday.
Just Saturday. Just yesterday. Came back around, let me give you the specific time. I think, I want to say, because I came back, it was evening, it was dark, I want to say 2 o'clock, because I was in, then came back.
Like 2 a.m.?
Came back, yeah, 2 p.m.
2 p.m.?
Mm-hmm. Because Saturday, sorry.
Okay, so let's start over. We're getting all...
2 o'clock remained unresolved. Morning in one version, afternoon in another. 4 became 5. Saturday blurred into Sunday. And each correction created another question about the last time Celeste could honestly say she had seen Amari alive. Detectives now worked through the account as one continuous sequence. Celeste's movements, Brittany's movements, the children in the room, and the moment the adults claimed to realize Amari was missing.
The reason we're asking you all these questions and we're trying to get specific every detail, it's not because we're like, ooh, what's Celeste doing? No, it's because we're trying to figure out at some point this child has gone missing, right. And the best way for us to figure that out, even if it seems doesn't make sense, like why are they asking this? What's this have to do with that? We want to know every specific detail for every moment that you went through in the last like 72 hours. Yeah. We can put everything together and we can figure out, okay, so where's the 8-year-old? What's going on? But in order for us to build this crazy picture, to be able to try to figure that out, we got to know everything. How did the kids know you? Like, do they call you Celeste? Do they call you mom number 2? Like, what? They call you dad? Okay. And what time was that when you got back yesterday?
I was around, I want to say, because I came back before she went to the store, and when she came back, I left. And then I got back around, I want to say 4-ish, close to 5-ish, I'm not sure.
So when you got back from Grandma's house, you said that was 5 p.m.?
No, 8 a.m.
5 a.m. Mm-hmm. Now, when you get back around 4 or 5, did you notice that the kids were in their bed? Or?
I didn't. Well, it's like I didn't think to notice that she would go.
So you just wanted to go to bed. You weren't really like checking to see if they were there or not. You just assumed they were. Yeah. And was Brittany was home when you did that? Mm-hmm. When you got in? Mm-hmm. Okay.
I was asleep, and that's when Brittany woke me up and said, "Hey, we gotta find it. We gotta." And I'm like, "What happened? What's going on?" And then that's when she went outside and started looking.
When was the last time you actually saw Nicole Saturday?
The last time I saw her was before I left. Before Brittany came back and before I left, that was the last time I
So Brittany gets back from BP, as you're leaving with your sister, you do see Nicole, you see her there, you know she's there.
When I got back from the store, I didn't know for sure. But before she left the store, she was there. But when I got back early that morning, I didn't look to see her.
No, okay, so before you left with your sister.
That was the last time I saw her.
So when you were leaving to go with your sister to Grandma's house, that's when you saw her there?
Mm-hmm. She never and then even if she wants to go outside, she'll always ask. Both of us. She don't just ask one parent, she'll ask both of us.
Do you know where Nicole is?
No, I don't.
No. Did you take Nicole from home?
I did not take Nicole from home.
Did anything happen to Nicole within the last 24 hours that you're aware of that caused her any type of injury?
No.
No. Is Nicole alive that you're aware of?
That I'm aware of, yes.
Mm-hmm. Is she dead that you're aware of?
No.
No. Okay. Do you have any reason to believe that she would not be okay?
Well, any kid that's wandering out, I assume the worst.
Okay. Do you know anything about her whereabouts?
No, I said the same thing we've been saying 20 times today.
We're going to step out for a second. We're going to go talk to Brittany for a little bit, and then we'll get back to you, okay?
All right.
Okay.
Celeste said she thought that Amari had run out of the hotel, but someone had then seen her and snatched her.
And with all that saying, what do you think happened with Nicole?
I'm gonna tell you from my personal experience. 2 years ago when I got back with Brittany, because we were together before she had kids, and then we separated, and then we came back together. My one-on-one relationship with her was, she was a sweet child, but the only thing was her behavioral problem.
So what do you think happened last night?
What I think, I think Maury probably got super mad. Like, it could be 1,000 reasons. I really don't know what goes through. I'm not the mother.
Okay.
So I really don't know what goes through this girl's mind. I'm still learning her and still getting her to accept, me, because she does realize it was just her and her mom. Now I came into the picture. So I don't know if it's probably was different for her. Like, who is this person, and trying to understand.
Does she try to get into it with you when she gets upset?
No, she just tells me leave me alone.
Okay.
I'm like, I'll leave me alone, and then when she's done, probably an hour later, she'll probably come back and be like, I apologize, and I'm like, it's okay.
So what do you think happened with her?
I literally think she just, God forbid, but I really think that she just, of course, ran away, but I really think that, God forbid, somebody snatched her up.
We want to know where Nicole is. It's not a if we find Nicole.
I want to know where Nicole is.
It's a when we find Nicole. We're going to find her.
Yeah.
If it's within the next couple hours, within the next couple days, we're going to find her. Okay? It's just a matter of when.
Yeah.
We know something happened. We know she's somewhere, and I think that you know where she is.
It's just how you
We got. This is just what we got to do. We got to talk to everybody.
Well, I've been in this predicament before when someone murdered my mother, and they didn't come at me like this. When they sat me down, they just let me write everything, and they just went off that. But I'm just being real with you. It's not how you come at me. I think you did this. I think you know. You just said it. I know. I think you know where she is. And it's like, if you think I know them, what are you trying to get me to say?
The interview captured the problem in full. Celeste admitted she had not checked the beds after returning. She proposed that Amari had run away despite describing her as a child who asked both adults before going outside. And when detectives said they believed she knew where Amari was, she treated the suspicion itself as proof that police were not helping. But suspicion was no longer based only on inconsistent answers. The family visit had been disproved. Brittany's claimed pre-911 search was absent from surveillance. More decisively, no camera showed Amari leaving alone. None showed an unknown person taking her. The routes that should have supported the runaway or abduction theory showed nothing. By the 24-hour mark, a homicide team joined the investigation, even as the public-facing search for Amari continued. Detectives could not yet announce what had happened inside the room, but they could rule out crucial parts of the story told by the two adults. The visit had not happened. The search had not happened as described, and there was no evidence that Amari had walked away. Then investigators heard that someone inside the room had already offered a different destination for Amari, 2 days before police found her. It was a phrase no investigator could safely dismiss: the Bad Kids Hospital. Amari's younger sister was covered in bruises, and what she told investigators was not a runaway story. She said Celeste had taken Amari somewhere she called the Bad Kids Hospital, and Amari was not coming back. That changed the shape of the investigation. Until then, detectives had been trying to determine what happened to one missing child during one confusing night. But when they carefully interviewed the surviving children, they began to see something much larger. The danger had not started when Amari supposedly disappeared. It had been inside the room. Zaire was 6 years old. She was too young to explain everything in the language adults would use. But children do not need courtroom vocabulary to describe fear. They remember phrases. They remember who carried someone away. They remember what they were told afterward. And Zaire remembered Celeste saying that Amari had gone to the Bad Kids Hospital. That phrase had apparently been used inside the household as a threat. If Amari misbehaved, Celeste would tell her she might be sent somewhere, a place designed to frighten a child into obedience. But Zaire was not describing a general warning. She said Celeste had taken Amari. She said Amari was not coming back. There was another reason investigators could not treat the statement as childish confusion. Zaire herself showed signs that the children had been harmed. Her account did not exist in isolation. It sat alongside bruises, the adults changing stories, and a hotel room where the children had been almost completely cut off from outside contact. So detectives confronted Celeste with what the 6-year-old had said. Not casually. Not as if it were gossip. They asked why Zaire would say Celeste had taken her sister. They asked about the Bad Kids Hospital. And Celeste offered an explanation. The phrase was only something she used to make Amari behave. A threat. A way to scare her into listening. But then came the harder question. Why would a child say Amari had been taken away? and that she was not coming back.
Dad took her sister to the Batgirl Hospital.
To the Batgirl Hospital? Oh, she's saying that because when Maury would act out, I say, Maury, listen, if you can't listen to us, you're gonna go, can't say defects, can't say none of that stuff. I said, Maury, if you can't play with your sisters or you can't negotiate, you're gonna go to this place. And normally when we say that, Maury will act right for at least 3 hours.
Why would Zaire say that she saw you take Nicole last night?
She saw me take, she didn't
Why
see
would
me
she say
take-
that you took her last night and that she's not coming back?
I didn't take her last night. I don't know why she would say that.
Okay, we've got a missing 8-year-old. If a 6-year-old says, hey, mom's girlfriend took her, and I just brushed that off, then I'm not doing a good job, okay? No, sir.
I wouldn't purposely take her out, then call you to say she's missing.
Okay, and like I just said, it's nothing against you, nothing that I have against you or anything.
Sure.
We've got your phone, we've got your girlfriend's phone. We're getting into those phones. Whether you guys like it or not, we're getting search warrants. We're going through them. We're going to check location data. We're going to check text messages, whether they're deleted or not. We're going to check phone call records. We're checking camera systems for vehicles, vehicle tags, locations. We're going to talk to every single person you guys have even thought about talking to in the past 5-6 days.
Okay, so to go through your phone, you want us to just get a search warrant then? You don't mind if we just look through it real quick? It'd be way faster.
You have to have probable cause for a search warrant. I'm not a probable cause. I'd rather have a lawyer before.
The recording was allowed to run without narration because the important part was not one isolated sentence. It was the pressure of the questions, Celeste's resistance, and the fact that investigators were no longer treating the children's words as background noise. A 6-year-old's statement does not automatically answer every question, but it can point detectives toward questions adults would rather avoid. And Zaire's account pointed in the same direction as the physical evidence. The medical examiner concluded that Amari had died approximately 2 days before Brittany made the 911 call. The missing person timeline had begun after her death. That single finding destroyed the idea that something had happened to Amari after she walked out of the hotel. She had not vanished during the night described by the adults. The reported disappearance was already part of what came afterward. The examination showed multiple injuries, including severe internal trauma, evidence of malnutrition, and damage that could not be explained as one sudden accident. The official cause of death was prolonged severe abuse, including being struck over the head. The medical examiner described it as battered child syndrome. In plain language, that means doctors were seeing a pattern. Injuries accumulated over time. Different wounds, different stages, a body showing repeated harm rather than one unexplained event. This was not a mystery about a single blow delivered in a single moment. It was evidence of an environment where violence had continued long enough to become visible in the medical record, and the other children had not escaped that environment. Investigators recovered recordings from Celeste's phone. They documented repeated abuse involving the children and showed that both adults had knowledge of what was happening. The recordings were not proof of one isolated outburst. Together, they established duration, control, deprivation, and a shared reality inside the room. The children were being disciplined through fear and violence. The adults were not simply unaware observers. The evidence showed participation, permission, or both. At trial, one officer struggled even to look at the footage while describing it. That detail says something without requiring the recordings to be replayed here. The material was so disturbing that the officer had to turn away from the screen. But for investigators, the recordings answered a question the missing child report could not. Why would a child be described as difficult by the adults responsible for her, while the people who knew her before the isolation described someone else? Amari's grandmother had remembered a child who enjoyed school, followed rules, and was kind, bright, and well-mannered. She had seen behavioral issues in the family's explanations, but she did not recognize Amari in that description. When Amari and her siblings had lived with their grandmother, she had not seen this supposed pattern of constant defiance. That contrast mattered. The adult's version turned Amari's behavior into a possible explanation for her disappearance. The children's statements and the medical evidence suggested that the adult's treatment of her had been the real story. The surviving siblings had endured abuse too. Their experiences would continue to matter long after the search for Amari ended, because they were not just witnesses to a crime. They were children living inside the same system of threats, isolation, and harm. By now, the case was no longer about one unexplained night. The children's statements, the medical findings, and the phone recordings revealed a sustained pattern of abuse that both adults knew about. But proving abuse was not the same as reconstructing the disposal of Amari's body. For that, detectives needed the phones, a rental vehicle, and a shopping trip made on the day she died. On November 19th, surveillance captured Celeste renting a small U-Haul. Her other stops included a discount store, where the purchases were latex gloves and bleach. By itself, that did not prove a murder. People rent trucks. People buy cleaning supplies. People wear gloves. But investigators were no longer looking at those details separately. They were rebuilding the day Amari died. The rental records showed Celeste taking the truck earlier that day. Surveillance then followed her to a dollar store where she bought latex gloves, bleach, and drinks. The U-Haul went back to the company at approximately 7:30 that evening. About half an hour later, Celeste was waiting for an Uber. That sequence mattered because the medical examiner had already established that Amari died roughly 2 days before the 911 call. November 19th was not some random date in the background. It was the day investigators believed Amari was killed, and the digital evidence added another layer. Searches recovered from Celeste's phone included questions about what to do when a child would not listen. There were searches for lakes nearby, for how street sewers worked, for why children ran away, for how to report someone missing. There was also activity connected to a U-Haul customer account. None of those searches, standing alone, proves homicide. A search history is not a confession. But timing changes the meaning of information. Put those searches beside the rental truck, the gloves, the bleach, the later missing person report, and the location data, and they stopped looking like unrelated curiosity. They began to look like preparation. The phone records also gave investigators a way to test the adult's movements against the physical world. Cell phone pings placed the device along routes leading away from Gwinnett County. U-Haul records and surveillance filled in the gaps the phone could not. The story was no longer contained inside the hotel room. It was moving toward DeKalb County. And by this point, detectives knew they needed access to every piece of digital evidence they could find. Not just the phone's visible contents. Location history. Calls. Messages. Deleted material. Vehicle tags. Camera systems. Anything that could show where the adults had gone and what they had done. They asked Celeste to hand over her phone voluntarily. She refused and said she wanted a lawyer. Detectives told her they could seek a warrant and that they already had probable cause based on the evidence gathered so far. That exchange marked a change. Celeste was no longer simply being asked to help search for a missing child. Investigators were treating her phone as potential evidence in a homicide investigation. Then the conversation crossed another line.
But the guy said as soon as we stepped out the door, you couldn't do that. So what stories are y'all giving me?
Search warrant for your phone. What do you mean we can't do that? Probable cause 51%. We have probable cause all day.
I just want our phone. So
Well, I know, but you're not getting your phone. Well, you gotta stay seated.
for what?
Well, you're not allowed to leave.
How am I allowed to leave?
Well, I'm telling you you're not allowed to leave.
Why am I being detained?
Yes, you are being detained.
How?
You're getting charged for law obstruction, giving false statements. You're not allowed to leave. So
I'm
you
getting
can sit
charged for
down.
false statements?
You can sit down. Or I can have the
I'm being
officer.
detained.
Well, listen, I'm telling you, you are. So either you can sit down and relax.
So we're both being detained.
No, you are being detained.
I'm being detained because someone didn't see me. So now y'all want to know where
People
someone see
didn't
me.
see you. Multiple people that honestly are in your corner. You can't even say they're a biased witness because they're not helping you out.
The sound of that exchange matters because Celeste was no longer being treated as someone free to leave and return whenever she wanted. Detectives told her she was being held in connection with false statements and obstruction-related conduct. She still disputed the basis for it. But the question was no longer whether police believed her story. It was whether the story had become evidence of the cover-up. And the same point was made again as detectives formally asserted that probable cause existed and that Celeste could not walk out of the room.
But the guy said as soon as we stepped out the door, you couldn't do that. So what stories are y'all giving me?
Search warrant for your phone. What do you mean we can't do that? Probable cause 51%. We have probable cause all day.
I just want our phone. So
Well, I know, but you're not getting your phone. Well, you gotta stay seated.
for what?
Well, you're not allowed to leave.
How am I allowed to leave?
Well, I'm telling you you're not allowed to leave.
Why am I being detained?
Yes, you are being detained.
How?
You're getting charged for law obstruction, giving false statements. You're not allowed to leave. So
I'm
you
getting
can sit
charged for
down.
false statements?
You can sit down. Or I can have the
I'm being
officer.
detained.
Well, listen, I'm telling you, you are. So either you can sit down and relax.
So we're both being detained.
No, you are being detained.
I'm being detained because someone didn't see me. So now y'all want to know where
People
someone see
didn't
me.
see you. Multiple people that honestly are in your corner. You can't even say they're a biased witness because they're not helping you out.
This was the custody turn in real time. The missing person interview had become an interrogation tied to a criminal investigation. Celeste's changing account was now part of the case detectives were building. While that was happening, Brittany's story also changed. Under sustained questioning, Brittany accused Celeste of killing Amari. She said Celeste had inflicted the violence and that she had helped conceal what happened afterward. It was a dramatic shift from the original report. At first, Brittany had presented herself as a mother waking to an open door and an empty room. Now she was pointing investigators toward a wooded area near the Stone Mountain Freeway in DeKalb County. The location was roughly 15 miles from the hotel. That distance mattered. Amari had not wandered there in rainbow light-up shoes. The route required a vehicle, planning, and an explanation for why the adults had directed police toward a missing child search instead of a crime scene. The phones and the rental records had already narrowed the search. The location data helped investigators connect the movements to the wooded area. Brittany's new statement gave them a specific place to look. Then, approximately 2 days after the 911 call, the search ended. At about 10:45 in the morning, investigators found Amari's body in the area Brittany had identified. She had been concealed in trash bags and partially buried beneath dirt and leaves. The details were devastating, but the investigative meaning was immediate. The place was not a random discovery. It was the endpoint toward which the rental records, surveillance footage, phone pings, and changed statements had all been pointing. The reported disappearance had been staged after Amari was already dead. Police then explained publicly what the investigation had established. The statements given by Brittany and Celeste did not match the evidence. The case had begun as a missing person investigation. It was now officially a homicide case.
Paired statements that we had gotten from Brittany Hall and also her partner, Celeste Owens. We compared those statements with evidence that we gathered and recognized that those statements were indeed false. Our investigation transitioned from a missing person case to indeed a homicide case. Within the next several hours, we will charge Celeste Owens with felony murder in connection with the death of Amari Hall. Additionally, Brittany Hall will be charged with concealing the death of another. We will continue to also investigate her role
In a matter of hours, the digital trail had done what the original story could not. It placed Celeste on the day Amari was believed to have died. It connected her to a rental vehicle, cleaning supplies, and movements away from the hotel. It exposed searches whose meaning became harder to dismiss when matched with the physical evidence. And Brittany's new account led police to the place where Amari had been hidden. The search for a living child had uncovered something else, an attempt to erase the evidence of her death. Police believed Celeste inflicted the fatal violence, and Brittany helped conceal the death. The evidence gathered next would force prosecutors to ask a harder question. Was Brittany merely part of the cover-up, or part of the murder itself? Brittany Hall first entered jail facing child cruelty charges and allegations that she had helped conceal a death. That was not the same as being accused of murder. At least, not yet. Celeste Owens faced the heavier initial case. Prosecutors charged her with felony murder, concealing a death, making false statements, and multiple counts of cruelty to children. The charges reflected two parts of the investigation: what happened to Amari, and what had been happening inside that hotel room long before the missing person call. Brittany's first charges were different: child cruelty, concealing the death of another, making a false report or false statements to police. The early theory was that Celeste had delivered the violence, while Brittany helped cover up what followed. Brittany's statement had pointed investigators toward Celeste, but the evidence did not stop at the wooded area. The surviving children were removed from the family's care by Georgia's Division of Family and Children's Services. They were not simply witnesses waiting for court. They were children who needed somewhere safe to go immediately. Gwinnett County police employees organized donations for them. In 1 week, the effort raised more than $3,500 to help with their immediate needs. Then came the first courtroom appearances. Both women were denied bond. Both requested attorneys. And both were assigned public defenders. Before the footage played, the legal situation was already clear. Neither defendant was being released while prosecutors treated them as a danger and while the homicide investigation continued.
There is no bond today. Any other questions?
Brittany Hall faced a judge for the first time in a Gwinnett County courtroom Wednesday. Gwinnett police say the woman told them where they could find the body of her 8-year-old daughter after her arrest Monday night.
There is no bond on the felonies have been denied, says you're a danger to the person. Only a Superior Court judge sitting in your case can grant a bond. Do you understand that? Do you know what that means for you?
No.
It means you're going to be here for a while, okay?
Hall's partner, 29-year-old Celeste Owens, also appeared in court. She's charged with felony murder, making false statements, cruelty to children, and concealing a death. Both women asked for an attorney, a judge assigning each of them a public defender. The judge said a date has not yet been set for next appearances. Until then, both women will remain locked up.
The footage showed the distance between a missing child report and a murder case. There would be no quick return to ordinary life. No simple explanation that ended with a locked door and a child who wandered away. Celeste's demeanor also drew attention. While completing paperwork, she appeared to laugh. That is an observable courtroom moment, nothing more. A reaction on camera does not prove what someone did. The charges and the evidence had to do that. And the charges against Brittany were about to change. Detectives kept reviewing the phone videos, the medical findings, and what the surviving children had described. They compared the recordings with the timeline and with the evidence of prolonged abuse. The picture was no longer of a mother who discovered a tragedy and panicked afterward. Prosecutors concluded that Brittany had allowed and participated in the abuse that led to Amari's death. Her legal exposure grew from concealment to murder. Brittany was later indicted on felony murder, multiple counts of cruelty to children, concealing the death of another, and making false statements. That charge, felony murder, can sound confusing. So here's the plain version. In Georgia, a person may be found guilty of murder when someone dies during the commission of another serious felony. Prosecutors do not necessarily have to prove that person delivered one specific fatal blow. If the evidence shows participation in the underlying felony and the death occurred during it, the law can treat that participation as murder. That distinction became central in this case. The question was not only who struck Amari, it was also who took part in the conduct that placed her in danger, allowed the abuse to continue, and concealed what happened. The defendants were tried separately because their defenses collided. Brittany blamed Celeste. Celeste's defense could argue that Brittany was responsible, or at least that prosecutors had failed to prove Celeste delivered the fatal injuries. Trying them together would have forced the jury to sort through competing accusations between two people who had shared the same room, the same children, and the same course of events. There was also a broader question hanging over the case. How had the children remained so isolated for so long? The family had appeared in the records of Georgia's child welfare system before. The Department of Human Services said there had been unsubstantiated investigations in 2015 and 2017. There was also a report in 2021, but officials said it contained no allegation of abuse or neglect. Based on those records, the agency said it had no reason to believe the children were in imminent danger. That was the agency's position. But paperwork only reflects what reaches the system. It does not record every missed phone call, every family member who no longer knows where a child lives, or every day spent behind a hotel door with no outside adult watching. By the time Amari disappeared, her grandmother had lost contact with the children. Neighbors rarely saw them, and the family's world had narrowed almost entirely to the room. The official records did not show imminent danger. The evidence found afterward showed what outsiders had failed to see. 3 years passed. In December 2024, Celeste Owens went to trial. She had pleaded not guilty and now faced malice murder, felony murder, aggravated battery, aggravated assault, multiple counts of cruelty to children, concealing the death of another, and making false statements to police. The case had moved far beyond the original missing child alert.
They're currently underway for Celeste Owens, one of the two women accused of killing an 8-year-old and trying to cover up her death. Well, Owens and the child's mother, Brittany Hall, they were indicted back in 2022 for the death of Amari Hall. Hall's trial will happen at a later date.
Celeste was now the first of the two women to face a jury. Brittany's trial would be handled later, in part because her version of events placed the responsibility on Celeste and created a separate legal fight over her own role.
3 years after Amari's murder, Celeste Owens, who had pleaded not guilty to everything, was on trial. At this stage, she was facing counts of malice murder, felony murder, aggravated battery, aggravated assault, multiple counts of cruelty to children, concealing the death of another, and making false statements to the police.
The prosecution's theory was direct. The two women had acted together. The exact identity of the person who delivered one final injury was not the only issue. The state argued that the abuse, the concealment, and the false story formed one connected course of conduct. By the time Celeste went to trial, prosecutors no longer treated Brittany as a passive witness who panicked after the fact. Their theory was that both women participated in the felonies that caused Amari's death, even if no witness could identify one final blow. That uncertainty became the defense's central argument. Then Amari's younger sister appeared by video and calmly described what happened inside the room after Amari stopped waking up. The defense said prosecutors could not prove who caused Amari's fatal injuries. The prosecution answered that the case did not depend on identifying one final blow, or even one single abuser. Celeste Owens pleaded not guilty. Her attorneys argued that the state had failed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she personally killed Amari. They pointed to the uncertainty over who delivered the injuries that caused the child's death. If prosecutors could not identify that person, the defense argued, they could not prove Celeste was guilty of murder. That was the line the jury had to examine carefully. But the prosecution was not presenting the case as a mystery about one isolated moment. Their theory was that Celeste and Brittany had acted together. The violence was part of a shared course of conduct. The concealment was shared. And the false story about a missing child came after the abuse had already taken Amari's life. The medical examiner's finding of battered child syndrome was central to that argument. It meant Amari's condition could not be reduced to one unexplained injury. The evidence showed prolonged abuse, accumulated harm, and a household where violence had continued over time. During closing arguments, the prosecutor put it bluntly, every single blow mattered. That did not mean the state was asking jurors to guess. It meant they were being asked to look at the entire felony conduct, not isolate one moment and pretend the rest of the evidence did not exist. Under Georgia's felony murder law, a person can be held responsible when a death occurs during the commission of another serious felony, even if that person did not personally deliver the final injury. So the prosecution's question was broader than, who struck Amari last? It was, who participated in the abuse, who allowed it to continue, and who helped conceal what happened? The answer, prosecutors said, was visible in the cumulative evidence. There was Zaire's testimony. There were the recordings recovered from Celeste's phone documenting abuse inside the hotel room. There were the medical findings. There was Celeste's rental of the U-Haul on November 19th, the purchase of gloves and bleach, and the surveillance showing where the vehicle went. There were phone pings connecting the movements to the wooded area where Amari was found. And then there were the internet searches. Questions about what to do when a child would not listen. Searches about nearby lakes, street sewers, children running away, reporting someone missing, and a U-Haul account. No single search proved the entire case. Neither did one rental record or one inconsistent answer. But evidence does not always arrive as a confession. Sometimes it arrives as a chain. Each link can be explained away by itself. Together, they can become impossible to ignore. The defense had to confront that chain while also confronting the testimony of a child. Amari's younger sister appeared remotely in court. She spoke about what she remembered after Amari stopped waking up. She said Amari had toilet paper in her mouth and would not wake the next morning. She described Amari being placed into a container with a lid, put into the trunk of a car, and taken away to what she understood as the bad kids' hospital. She also described life inside the room, sleeping on the floor without blankets, staring at the wall, and being denied ordinary things children use to occupy themselves. The testimony was painful, but the courtroom coverage focused on something else too. The girl remained composed. She was calm while describing experiences no child should have had to understand, let alone repeat in front of a jury. Her composure did not make the testimony less serious. If anything, it made the distance between her age and what she had witnessed harder to overlook. The recordings corroborated the broader account. The medical evidence corroborated the pattern of harm. And the adults' statements kept collapsing under comparison with records, surveillance, and the children's memories. Then Amari's grandmother, Barbara, testified. Barbara said she had not known physical abuse was happening. She learned what had happened through the same public revelations that shocked everyone else. For a period, Amari and her siblings had lived with Barbara and attended school. Barbara wanted them to stay. She had repeatedly asked Brittany whether she could take care of all 3 children. Brittany said no. After the children returned to live with their mother, Barbara tried to keep contact. She called Brittany to speak with them, but eventually lost touch. She did not know where the family was living. She did not know what their daily life inside the hotel looked like. And she rejected the idea that Amari's behavior explained what happened to her. Barbara remembered a bright, respectful child who enjoyed learning and going to class. She remembered someone kind and well-mannered. That did not match the picture of Amari as a constant behavioral problem. The picture used by the adults to make her disappearance seem possible. The jury heard the evidence, the competing theories, and the instructions on the law. They were told not to research the case, watch news reports, or discuss it outside the courtroom. Then they began deliberating. In December 2024, the verdict came. Celeste Owens was found guilty on all counts. At sentencing, the judge imposed life without the possibility of parole for malice murder. Additional sentences on the remaining counts were ordered consecutively, totaling 235 years. Life without parole, plus 235 years. Judge Angela Duncan told Celeste she would never again see the light of day to inflict that kind of cruelty on another person. But the case against Brittany was still unresolved. Brittany had initially pleaded not guilty. In September 2025, she accepted a plea agreement. She pleaded guilty to felony murder, 11 counts of cruelty to children, concealing a death, and making false statements. She received a life sentence. The prosecution said Brittany had failed to protect her children and had joined in the abuse. The court cases had now established legal accountability for both women, even though the two cases ended in different ways. Amari's surviving siblings were no longer in state custody and were reportedly living with their grandmother. That is where the legal record becomes quieter. The verdicts answered who would be held responsible. They did not answer what the children will remember years from now, or what they may one day choose to disclose about the life they survived. They do not answer what might have changed if Amari's isolation had been recognized sooner, if someone had known where the family was living, if a missed call, a bruised child, or a closed hotel door had been understood differently. Barbara spoke about the future Amari would never have. She would never see her play sports. She would never teach her to drive. She would never watch her go to prom or share the ordinary years grandmothers imagine with their granddaughters. Those were not abstract possibilities to Barbara. They were specific moments, already pictured, now permanently missing. And the list remains unfinished. Which piece of evidence do you think most decisively exposed the staged disappearance? The child's testimony, the recordings, the digital trail, or the changing stories? Share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more true crime investigations.